And so for those of you who are just hopping on, welcome. Nice to see you here. I'm so glad that you made it. And I offered what I call an invitation, and we're going to talk so much more about those. But just to get us oriented and acclimated, if you have a pen and paper handy, awesome. And I asked you to write down what brought you here today. What got you from not procrastinating and thinking about maybe doing this webinar to actually registering and signing up? So at the end of this, I'm going to open it up and open up the chat, and maybe you can give some of your answers. So I think we're going to just get started because it's 1:02. So I'm glad you're here. Welcome to Get Past Procrastination and Get Back to Writing. I'm Janna Lopez, your guide for today, and I'm here in partnership with BookBaby, an amazing self-publishing company. And we're going to have an awesome time. I'm really excited, helping people connect to their confidence and clarity, and their connection through writing is my jam. It's my passion. It's what I do. It's what I love. And I get the honor of seeing people completely transform in their writing life, going from being lack of confidence, being afraid, being unclear, being overwhelmed, and giving them a path forward. And what I like to talk about is having writing freedom forever. And I know that sounds like a catchphrase and a big promise, but I have seen it happen. I know for myself, and pretty much every single person that I've worked with who's come to a retreat or I've done sessions with online, we have been able to forge a new path forward. And, so it's possible. I guess that's what I want to let you know, is that it's possible. And for me, it happens every day. So, but I'm going to give you a little bit about what's going to happen today in this time that we're together. And before I do that, I just have to acknowledge you. You have shown up for yourself by being here with me today. You have shown up for yourself by making room for something different. You've shown up for yourself by at least entertaining the idea that there could be a new way to approach your writing life, which might actually create some freedom and creativity and productivity. So you've already won in the win column just by being here. And we need to know these things. We need to stop and acknowledge that when we take a moment to do something different or make a change in how we think, that we're already progressing on a path forward. So good for you. So here's how today is going to go. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about me and what qualifies me and why I'm here and how I ended up here with you. And then I'm going to share a little bit about my connection to BookBaby and how we've formed this friendship and partnership. Then we're going to start talking about writing struggles, because what leads to procrastination are those writing struggles that we have, and we may not even be clear on what they are or how to name them, which is part of the problem that leads to procrastination. So then we'll talk about the struggles. Then I'm going to share with you my perspective, what I've learned from my own experience and from working with hundreds and hundreds of people, what procrastination is, where it comes from, so you can identify it for yourself. Then we're going to talk about some proven methods that I've used that help me get past procrastination. So I'm going to be giving you solutions of how you can apply some of what we talk about in your own life. I'm going to introduce a couple of people that have inspired me, that I've worked with, that at one time might have procrastinated or are doing such amazing things in the world now with their writing and their books and their publishing, that I think you might just feel good to hear about them and how they go about being themselves in the world through their writing. And it's very incredible and inspiring. And then lastly, of course, I'm going to offer resources if you choose to stay in touch or want to further engage or get more information or learn or actually have a chance to work with me one-on-one. I'm going to have a couple of ways that we can do that. And so that gives you the lay of the landscape. So I hope this sounds great for you. And I also want to acknowledge something here. I've been told that my writing approach is not the norm. It's a little antithetical to the way a lot of people talk about writing and approach writing. And I am so okay with that. If you even get 1 or 2 tidbits today that help you think differently or are inspired in any way to explore something a little differently, then I feel like I've done my job. My work here is I care so much about helping you find what it is that keeps you stuck and offer you ways of looking at the parts of your life, your writing life, that can actually be transformed, transmuted, and to give you hope. I mean, I think sometimes, and I can only speak to myself and my own experience as a struggling writer, that there were years where I procrastinated. There were years I didn't have hope. There were years that I told people I was writing a book and felt a little bit embarrassed, maybe even slightly ashamed, that here I was talking to people about telling them I was writing a book, knowing that I hadn't written anything. However, I had very clean shower tile and a sock drawer that was amazingly organized, because those are the things I did when I would find myself sitting at my computer to write, and all of a sudden those things became more important. So maybe that sounds familiar to you. So who am I? Who is Janna Lopez? Who is she out in the world? Well, today I'm a writing coach, teacher, psychic writing advisor, and retreat leader. And I live in beautiful Santa Fe, New Mexico. It is gorgeous where I am, and it's very productive for people who come here and want to learn more about their own writing process and actually maybe complete books. Last month alone, I had 2 authors who finished books, and I flew to Portland, Oregon to help celebrate them. And so getting people from start or thought to finish is all about what I do. Sometimes the writing isn't always about the productivity, right? Sometimes we need the writing to express. And I also want to acknowledge some of you here are working on professional books. Some of you may be working on nonfiction books. Some of you may be working on novels. Some of you may just have an interest in writing and you're dabbling with the thought, all of it's good. I think whatever it is that I teach and talk about can help you, not just in your writing life, but in all ways, because I think whether we're writing or not writing is a representation of how we're showing up in the world with ourselves. So I'll just open it up by telling you that I really do feel like the writing that we do or don't do is a representation of some kind about where we are with ourself. So I have an MFA in creative writing from a really very great school in Oregon called Pacific Northwest College of Art, Willamette University, and I got my MFA in creative writing. So I also had the educational route towards learning about what works and what doesn't work, because there's a lot of things that we have in our lives, in our writing lives, that some things work and some things don't work. But I also recognize that education has given me some tools to help with my own exposure to different writing, my own exposure to different ideas related to how to approach writing. It's opened me up to different authors, poetry, and a whole blend of content and styles that I probably never would have gotten any other way. So I'm always extremely grateful that I went back, and I didn't go back to get my master's until I was 51 years old. So I was a late bloomer in my writing life. And the last thing I want you to know is I do utilize psychic intuition in my work. It does feel, sometimes people are like, that's a little woo-woo, or that's not my thing. And whether it works for the people that are out there or not, it is part of what I do. So I've learned not to shy away from it and just put it out there that it is incorporated into my work. And it does help me tap in at a very deep level. All right, so that's me, but let's talk about you. Let's talk about you. So if I were to start, if you were here with me one-on-one and you were in my living room, I would probably ask you two questions. The first is, what does your writing dream look like? That may seem like a very simple question, but sometimes when we're stuck in procrastination or we're feeling super, super stuck, we don't even really know exactly what our writing dream looks like. Now, since we're here on a BookBaby webinar, my guess is that whether you've never published a book or you've published 10 books, that dream always does feel alive and exciting. The idea of actually finishing a book and having that dream fulfilled. Some people include the idea of like leaving a legacy for their children in their writing dreams. Some people want to have a professional book that helps them in their professional life. So when they go out in the world doing all the amazing things that you do, you've got a book and you can talk about what you do. I just helped a woman finish a book. She's a massage therapist. And she's going to talk about in her book how pain and emotional connections are spoken in the body. So for her, a book's going to help her with her professional life. So whatever it is that your dream looks like, I think it's just good to start identifying that. And then the other thing I would ask you is, how do you know what you know about writing? How do you know what you know about writing? Sometimes we have all kinds of ideas in our head of what writing is supposed to be, what it's supposed to do, how it's supposed to go, what it's supposed to sound like. And the list goes on. And it could even come down to those teachers, those dreaded teachers in high school with the bleeding red pens that we got back. And that does tell us something about writing. It does tell us something about writing. So how do you know what you know about writing? And what would your writing dream look like if you could identify it? One thing I want to say also on this is that there is a huge cost involved with procrastination. The cost involved with procrastination is time. If I could take all my time back from my mind space that I have put into thinking about how I'm procrastinating, I probably would have a good year or so if you were to add up all the moments and seconds of all my mind space taken up on the thought of procrastination. And the energy of sitting there and looking at a blank screen with the cursor, just thumbing, drumming on the table with my nails. So it can I don't want to say waste time, but it can take time away from creation and expression for sure. The other cost of procrastination, and this is a big one, and I'm only speaking from my own experience, but there is a mental health cost to procrastination. When we talk about all the things we want to do, and all the moments that pass that we don't do those things, whether it's finishing a book, whether it's losing weight, whether it's taking the trip that we want to take, whatever it is, there is a mental health cost that goes with that. And we end up being super hard on ourselves. We end up blaming ourselves. We end up having a lot of negative disparity between our talk and our action, which definitely has a toll on mental health. The other thing is that there are financial costs when we procrastinate. When we don't do the projects that we want to do, if we miss deadlines or proposals, or the book that's supposed to go with our business that we are going to use to further our reputation or create awareness, if we don't finish those books and we don't get those books out, and those books are part of our business growth, there is a financial cost to procrastination. So I just wanted to put that out there, that there are real costs. And so you're here for a reason. And whatever it is that I have to give you today, show you, share with you, teach you, take whatever makes sense and make it your own. If it's not making sense, that's fine. Don't use it, put it away for another time, whatever works. I want this to be meaningful for you in a way that you can see it for yourself, in a way that you can apply it for yourself, the way you can integrate it into yourself. So we're going to start with the idea of freedom when it comes to writing, because the opposite of procrastination is freedom. And I am a firm believer that writing freedom forever is available. And when it comes to expression, I think it's the one thing we most deserve, and it's the one thing that eludes us, which is interesting. You know, we want to be free and express, and this can go for any form of art, writing especially, because that's why we're here. But many of you might paint, or, you know, there's all kinds of things that can come from that expense and dream and disparity of not having that freedom. So you found me, you found this webinar, you're here, we're here. So my guess is that maybe you've tried some things that haven't worked. Maybe you have gone around and around and around in all the mind games that we play with ourselves. And maybe you're not that stuck. And that's great, but maybe you are in a place where you're so stuck you can't move forward. And I've had both ends of the spectrum of people who are, you know, already in a writing flow but want to expand their writing flow, and I have people who haven't written in 10 years come. And so it runs the gamut. And I understand that when we look at our writing life, we're looking at it from lots of different places. We might be thinking about it. We might be feeling good or bad about it. We might be dreaming into it. So we get into the imagination space. But I'm going to introduce three main concepts that might start the dialogue. So in my teaching life, what I try and do is build some groundwork and some foundational concepts, and then we build on them, and then we'll start to unpack a little bit about the reasons for procrastination and writing struggles. But we'll start with what I know. First is that writing is a relationship. I'm going to say that again, because this is so important. Writing is a relationship. Most people look at writing as the thing that they need to do that comes from their headspace of thinking about what they know, putting it on the page. And if the thoughts and the desire aren't matching up, it causes some friction and a sticking point. But the thing about a relationship, and why this relates to procrastination, is when you start to imagine writing from a different place and for a different purpose, it changes the game. And so writing as a relationship, like any relationship, it takes time, it takes love, it takes patience, it takes nurturing, it takes care, it takes attention. And I'm sure you're probably all really good friends. And you probably have people in your life that you love. And when you think about how you approach those people and what it takes to nurture a relationship, it sets a different tone than if you're trying to create something and it's one way and it's one-sided, and that you've got this huge thing in front of you. It's like a big black block of something, and you don't really know what to do with it. So a relationship, as a relationship, it gives you a sense of kindness and reciprocal ways of engagement. And that does make a difference. So writing is a relationship. That's the first concept. The second one is that writing is a self-conversation. So as a relationship, you get a chance to share and listen. And the beautiful thing about writing the way I teach it and know it is that as a conversation, this does a lot of things. Number one, it takes the weight off of having to do something. So as a conversation, you can step in and step out. You can pick up where you left off. You can engage. And it just adds a touch of grace, I guess, for lack of a better term, to the process and the way we incorporate writing into our lives. Because if we have to sit down every day at 7 o'clock and we're not really feeling it and we're expected, and we're going to talk more about this, but you know, as a conversation, sometimes you feel like speaking and sometimes you feel like listening. Sometimes you just feel like neither, and you just want to be in silence. So it gives you some breathing room as to how and when the words are going to appear and flow for you. And then the last major concept, which people know I talk about this a lot, is that writing is an invitation and not an expectation. And I will say that again. Writing can become an invitation and not an expectation. And so when I say this to you, what happens if I say to you, you can invite yourself into writing? How does that feel? And that means if there's something that you want to write or express, you can take the invitation or not. It takes the pressure off. And writing and as an expectation is heavy. It's one of the biggest things that stops people from writing. And we'll talk more about it next when we go into the writing struggles here. But as an expectation, there's really no incentive sometimes if you feel like it has to be a certain way and what that looks like. And so the reason why I bring up these concepts for you is because in order for me to have different outcomes in my own writing life, when I was stuck and not moving forward, I had to start rethinking about what writing was doing and how it was showing up for me and how I was approaching it, because what I was doing and thinking and how I was being with it was not working. I was getting nowhere but a blank screen and feeling bad about myself. And so I had to start thinking about it different. And so everything that I now teach was my own experience, and it's the stuff that I work with people every day, the foundation of what breaks them open so they get to the next place, and that's beyond procrastination, and they are always 100% back to writing, 100%. So writing is a relationship, writing is a self-conversation, and writing as an invitation. How do those feel to you? How do those feel when I say those? I'm just curious. I can't wait to open up the chat at the end, because this is where it begins in terms of a new path forward and towards your freedom. So writing struggles, that's next. The writing struggles are what lead to procrastination. So I've got a few here that we're going to talk about, and we're going to see how they land with you and if any of these are yours. All right, the first writing struggle that people have that is so common is lack of purpose. Lack of purpose. That may seem obvious, but it really isn't as obvious when you start to think about what are you working on right now, and are you clear on the purpose? And does that purpose really align with what your heart wants, or is it the purpose based on the expectation? So I can give you an example. Somebody wanted to write a book that they thought was going to help people heal from cancer, and they were going to talk about their whole experience. And it was a very external purpose. I'm going to help these people. But really what it came down to when we did some talking about what is the purpose, she realized she really wasn't clear on her own purpose for herself, for her own self-conversation. And so we unpacked it. And she really wanted to be over the grief of knowing that she was never really going to be able to do the things that she once did. And that became the purpose, was for her to give herself back to herself and to heal her grief. And those are two very different places of purpose. And so while we think we have purpose, getting as clear as we can as to why helps fuel the motivation. And if we can have motivation, that gets us beyond the procrastination. So that's how that sits. Second writing struggle. Oh boy, this is a big one. I've had it, and every single person I've ever come across has had it in some form or fashion. False expectations. False expectations. That is the giant in the realm of struggles. Expectations about what we're supposed to write, or the quality of our writing, or who it's going to impact. And believe me, these expectations are as tall as the moon, and they spend thousands and thousands and thousands of moments over our lifetime as humans and as writers, being built into the fabric of our knowing and our relationship that we currently have with writing. So some questions I'm going to ask you to think about, you can jot these down, is where did your expectations about you as a writer come from? That's a big question. Do you even know? And do you have critical voices constantly running through your mind as you're writing? Do you have critical voices constantly running through your head while you're writing? All right, well, that leads to the next big writing struggle. Self-judgment and self-criticism. Self-judgment and self-criticism. Those are the next two. They are terrible foes when it comes to expression. And there is no true measure of good enough when it comes to expression or creativity, because there isn't a gold standard that exists. You know, we're talking about the taste of water. It's like the two don't go together. So if you're talking about what the realm of good enough is and how we are critical of ourselves, the kinds of things that we do is we disparage ourselves with very unkind words, either to ourselves or out loud. And it might go something like this. This sucks. No one will read it. I can't write. Why do I bother? What's the point? I should just trash it. So yeah, these are the things that people have said to me about themselves and their work. And, you know, the question I'd ask yourself is, what is your origin of self-judgment or self-criticism? Where did it come from? What is it? Who is it? What does it exist? I had one client, and this voice was his father, because no matter what he did or what he wrote or how he showed up, it was always never good enough. And, you know, I picture these moments when we're in these tender expressions, like the 8-year-old who has done a beautiful drawing and holds it up to their mother or father or grandparents, and they want it on the refrigerator. You know, there's like a very tender moment of vulnerability. And we can sometimes not even get to those moments because we've already criticized or disparaged it in our head. Next one, another writing struggle. Comparison, imposter syndrome, or lack of confidence. Comparison, imposter syndrome, and lack of confidence. Now, I know each and every one of these deserves their own place in the sun, but I put them together because there is a relationship with, I see the way writers struggle, and either they compare their work, and if I had a nickel for every time people told me I'm not really a writer, even though they've written their whole life. I had a client here from Colorado, and she brought stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of her journals. She's written her whole life. And she says, I'm not really a writer. And that broke my heart. And lack of confidence. I mean, I think we all feel that sometimes, especially with writing. So the questions I would ask you, well, and I want to say this, for anybody who's writing anything at any moment, for any reason, is writing. Therefore, you are really writing. That makes you really a writer if you're writing. That's, I mean, it's just that straightforward for me. And I want you to be able to receive that. You know, receive that. You are a writer. You're here. You know, there's so many other people in the world that will only think about writing and won't write, but you care enough about yourself in this moment and your writing path to be here for yourself and to write. So you're really a writer. And if you need to ask yourself what makes a real writer, just so you know, is it degrees or the fact that people have been published? But I would also add, when did lack of writing confidence settle in? Where did those seeds of doubt get planted and sprouted? All right, last writing struggle that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to move on to procrastination itself. I hope this is going well for you, and I'm feeling good. We're having a good time, and I'm appreciating that we're doing this. All right, so the last one, writing for perceived audiences. This is a biggie. This is a biggie because over time we learn that in order to further pursue personal or professional goals through writing, that we have to package our words in ways that we imagine others will want to hear them or be able to receive them. It's a cousin of people pleasing in a way. But if we're thinking ahead of all the people that may or may not read our work and how they're going to see it or if they're going to like it, I mean, it's impossible to fulfill that, first of all, and it's exhausting. And I've gotten to a place in my own writing, and it's taken years. Listen, this is not easy for me either, but I always remind myself, every time I get sucked into the vortex of thinking I have to write something for somebody else, I almost like suffocate, and it's very stifling, super stifling. So the question I ask the people that I work with, and I'll ask you, because this is based on my belief, is that what happens to the process or quality if the only person you were writing for is yourself? An audience of one, as I like to say, an audience of one. Now, the disclaimer, caveat, addendum, whatever you want to call it, is that I recognize that we do have projects, that we have a certain goal that we're trying to achieve, and we have audiences or clients that we're trying to reach. And this is important. The writing is always only going to be for yourself. You can choose to edit later, or you can choose to include or not include what you've written and what you share or what you publish later. Editing and publishing or sharing are two different things for me. We're only talking about writing now and what keeps us from being free and what gets us beyond procrastination. And so just thinking, if you're only writing for an audience of one, what does that do for you in your own writing, in your own expression? How does that open you up? And that's a hard one for a lot of people. And sometimes people want to edit as they go. I know lots of writers that are sort of stuck in that constantly editing while they go, which is really not a free place at all. But they feel it's because they're trying to package these words and their ideas in a way for that perceived audience that doesn't truly exist. So between those, lack of purpose, false expectations, judgment and self-criticism, comparison, imposter syndrome, lack of confidence, writing for perceived audiences, those are all struggles. And then what happens is, as we're struggling and we're struggling and we're struggling, like I'm already tired thinking about it. I just want to take a nap. There's no incentive to write. There's no motivation to write. We've exhausted our expressions will to the point where it just won't even bother. So procrastination is one of those things that comes from a lot of different places for a lot of personal reasons, a lot of professional reasons, but I'm going to break it down with 4 primary areas, and you can see where you fit into these. And I want to say, listen, if you could have gotten that book done by now, or that project, and you've been procrastinating, don't be hard on yourself, because if you could have gotten it done by now, you would have. That's the thing. We would have. If we could have, we would have by now. So don't be so hard on yourself. We're here now, and you're on a new path. And I truly believe it's possible for you. So let's go on to what happens with procrastination. So as I was saying, no one enjoys the agitation and self-judgment that comes with the procrastination. The what's wrong with me? I should have done it by now. I needed to do it by now. Why can't I do what everybody else is doing? So there's a lot of stuff that happens in that place of where we're stuck and we're unable to move on. And there are a lot of quick fix programs out there that I know people have tried. Write your book in 30 days. There's lots of promises out there about becoming a bestseller or becoming a TED Talk expert. And a lot of these programs, and I'm not saying they're all bad or good. This is not an opinion about the quality of them. I'm just pointing out that if you have tried the programs and they haven't worked, the reason why is because they're only there to sell to you by imposing a superficial, false, unrealistic promise to you to offset the psychological pain that comes with procrastination. So the thing about procrastination is there are reasons why we procrastinate, and they're complicated and they're nuanced and they're layered. So it's not just about exerting mental discipline of imposing this will to put the words onto the page. We get stuck, and there's reasons why. The first is the mental snares. Mental snares, that's the first reason why people procrastinate. And those are the persistent, intrusive thoughts. We've had a lifetime of building up of all these thoughts about what we think, the false measuring sticks of how we're supposed to write or what it's supposed to be, the projected audiences, and ping-ponging in our minds between realizing our deep desires and the struggles with doubt. So the mental snares lock into our mind and forget about it. We're not going anywhere. We're stuck. So this is why I talk about having a new relationship with writing, because it involves unlearning somewhat what we've already learned so we can actually write, and what I call creating a possibility of possibility. That's the place that we start, the possibility of possibility. So what are the origins of your current thoughts, beliefs, doubts, or struggles? And can you imagine writing as a relationship to sort of offset the mental snares? All right, second, emotional snares. Emotional snares, that's the second. So in this realm, it's how people feel about writing and how they feel specifically about their own writing. And so some may feel inadequate, some may have not wanting to get too deep into a topic that they're writing about because they're afraid it'll be too painful. But in the emotional snares is where we deal with the questions of worth, value, impact, the backlash that we may or may not receive. Or, there's even the emotional snare that relates to what happens if you actually finished that book. Then what? What happens if you realize that amazing dream, right? What happens then? So when you procrastinate, can you get a sense of Where you're feeling stuck? Is it your thought or your feelings? Can you identify them? All right. Third snare related to procrastination is a spiritual snare. And I know there's many forms of writing that we do that don't necessarily are not informed by or have to do with our spiritual spaces, but you know, sometimes we have to write letters or emails or proposals or blog posts, and not all writing is a spiritual endeavor. But I will say that no matter what, the function of creating through the process of writing goes from hidden to seen, from imagined to realized, from thought to expression. So something's happening. We're birthing an element of our beingness, which I do feel is part of our spiritual space. So we do get spiritual snares. And so when we're in these spaces, we're probably not spending enough time with ourselves. We're not really giving ourselves the space to have a conversation or develop a relationship with our writing. And so I would just encourage you to take a look and designating a separate time and space to actually be with your words and with your writing and with your conversation. And I always encourage people to not write on their laptop or their computers, because that's where we work, and try to be separate from the space that we work, so you're there with yourself without the distraction of emails or all the other things that pull our attention away. All right, so the last one, the last element of procrastination that I see all the time, and maybe this is you, is a tactical snare. Tactical snare. And that comes from the overwhelm that accompanies the desire to write. And those could be all the logistical questions. How do I outline? Where should I organize chapters? What is it that I want to say? Should I include all the work that I've done the last 5 years, or should I start fresh? And so figuring out what it is tactically that you need and addressing it before you begin your process makes it easier for you. And it makes procrastination less likely, because you've already complemented and addressed the snares that will come up. And so figuring out what works for you. If you don't write in the morning, you're not a morning person, and somebody says, write your morning pages every day, and that's not who you are or how you are, it's not going to be in congruency with how you need to write, and that will stop you and encourage procrastination. Okay, so we've covered the ground, and now what do we do about it? Now what do we do about all these things? So the way I get around, one way I get around procrastination, and this is what I want you to, start thinking about, is invitations. And invitations in my world are everything. And it's the one tool, the one way, the one approach that has had 100% success and effectiveness for every single person I've worked with. And so invitations are everything. Because the idea is, when we want to write and if we're stuck, we play all these mind tricks to get ourselves to try to write. But the thing is that we may stay stuck because we're still thinking of writing in the same way. We're still approaching it in the same way. And so the difference between invitations and prompts is that with prompts, we become expected to do something, and then it goes into the expectation realm, which is what I'm trying to carry us away from. Going back to the idea of an invitation, you can step in or step out. You can invite yourself in or step out. So in my world, invitations are everything. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how to get through to the invitations and what they're available. But why they work is that they bypass the logic of the mind. So if you give yourself an invitation, and to me, everything is an invitation, but if you give yourself an invitation, a word, an idea, music, something in your refrigerator, you're outside, you bypass the logic of the mind and the expectation of it to produce results. So you don't have a whole lot of time with all of these mental associations that we have about writing with invitations, it bypasses all that and gives you a chance to respond. And in your response, you begin the creation process. So I want to bring Chad on right now. And the reason why is because Chad has been a student of mine, and he came to a retreat in New Mexico. And I want you, I know, Chad, we talked yesterday about what we were going to talk about, but I actually am changing my mind. And here's why. So Chad's book just came out a couple months ago. And most of this book, these poems, beautiful poems, came from invitations that I provided in this class that we were in, that I taught. And it's so interesting to me to see how invitations changed your writing life. So if you could just for a few minutes share with us what the invitations meant to you and your writing, and how they changed your writing life and got you out of procrastination.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. Thanks for switching it up on me. Let's see here. I think invitations, how did it change my writing life? I think I was in my head a lot, and being able to come to your retreats and kind of get out of my regular daily routine and be immersed in this beautiful kind of like scenery where I just showed up for myself, and I was there, I created space, I was ready to write. And yeah, I think the invitations allowed me to, I don't even know, it's hard to explain what you do sometimes, but just kind of go inside of me and find words that I didn't even know was there, if that makes sense.
So it got you out of your thinking and it got you into the creating, because it was a way of you to connect to yourself and find surprising words there, because all of them, all the books, 80–90% of these are all from invitations.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you gave me this one invitation when I was at your retreat in Santa Fe, New Mexico. You're like, just look at something. We're outside, just look at something and kind of describe it. But when you describe it, switch it around and make it something real life. So I seen an orange peel on the ground, and I literally looked at that orange peel and described it, and then related it to like kind of a traumatic experience with my mother growing up. And when I got, and it's in that book right that you had right there, but when I read it, I was just blown away of like what came out of that invitation, being open to it. And I truly found freedom. And I really resonate with what you said about writing as a relationship with yourself. Like it truly is. It's been the most healing modality I've ever stepped into. It's truly allowed me to love myself. And so I want to love my writing and myself like I love the other people in my life. And I've found that key, you know.
Perfect. And the thing about the invitations is that they get you out of your mind, and they enable you to tap into that part of yourself, your soul, your spirit, your space, that it becomes associative to memories, reflections, parts of yourself. And it's truly fascinating. And so your book was beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. And
yes,
we're going to go over to Stephanie for just a couple of moments. And Stephanie, tell me about how invitations have shown up for you, what they created. You came here to Santa Fe, you were procrastinating only because you had too many ideas for the book, books that you wanted to write. And we were able to clarify some things, and we worked on the invitations, and it opened you up. So tell me about your experience in a few minutes about being in Santa Fe and invitations and not procrastinating and coming to one of my retreats. You're muted, dear.
Here we go. Thanks for having me on right now. I appreciate it. I'm happy to talk about all of this, because truly going to Janna's workshop in Santa Fe deeply radicalized my life, my creative flow, how I think about things, and it returned me to a conversation with myself in a less reactionary creative flow. So I'm an artist. I have a lot going on. I have a lot of different interests. And I also, in hindsight, am realizing that I arrived to the workshop in a very reactionary mode via media and social media, and how that kind of like might have pulled me out of my natural and robust creative process. And Janna's invitations have really changed the way that I am thinking for myself. It's also changed the way that I'm writing for myself. So I had kind of gotten caught up with my own expectations of artwork that I had made before, books that I have published before, thinking that I needed to go in that same trajectory. And I realized in the workshop with Janna that that's actually not at all what I am right now, that those other creations that I had done were true at some point for me, but the reason that these things weren't coming out was because until going to Janna's workshop, I wasn't in a current conversation with myself. So this workshop process allowed me to become more present with myself, more present through invitations, and also to kind of like drop my ego and just show up to hear something different from this like creative process that I truly believe we're all capable of. And something that
sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but we're this time is going way too fast.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So thanks for sharing.
Everyone. Totally.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. I appreciate it. And so here's one method that I have for invitations, which I'm going to share with you. And it's the Oracle writing decks that I created. You can use these or not use these. I can talk about how you can access them, and there's going to be opportunities. But the point of these is that it's a very specific way to invite yourself in. So whatever you need to invite yourself into your conversation, use it. And this is a brilliant tool, if I do say so myself. Everybody I've worked with has used them, and I created these based on the way people engage with the need of invitations to get out of their head so they can stop procrastinating and get into a conversation. So that's how it ties together. And there are 3 decks. The first deck is the Ignite deck, and this is to address the spiritual snares that we talked about. All the photos were taken in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And every card has 3 ways of interacting. So the front is the photo, and then the back has the words, and every deck has a little icon, a little drawing. And so you can pick and choose, and they have invitations on here that enable you to stop what you're doing, take 5 minutes, and invite yourself into the conversation. So whether you're, having coffee and you just pick a card, there's the spiritual snare, the emotional snare, and the mental snare. And each deck deals with one of the elements where you might be stuck. So if this is a beautiful tool, I'm telling you, this will get you out of procrastination. And there are others. You can listen to music, put on your headphones, write in response to what you're hearing. You can go outside. You can go to your refrigerator and pick something out of your refrigerator and set it down and imagine what it has to say to you. So the idea is to start utilizing the idea of invitations to get you out of your head. And these decks have really, really, really made a difference. And I love that there's just a word, a concept that you can take and write in response. And so sometimes people will do this when they're having coffee, 5 minutes, or before you go to bed, 5 minutes, just pick a card. It doesn't have to be a huge emotional endeavor where you sit down and all of a sudden the weight of the world is on you because you can't get writing and you've got the next great novel to complete. Just stay in a conversation and just write. And so these decks are amazing. And that's one of the things that I have for you as a solution is these decks come with a 5-lesson video course and a PDF booklet that you can download. And that's one of the ways that you can stay in conversation and invite yourself. So I'm going to talk about the other 2 ways that you can connect. And before we do that, I'm just going to recap a little bit about where we are. I'm going to talk to Andre from BookBaby, and then I'm going to give you some information if you're interested of how we can stay in touch. So I'll probably be just a few minutes over our time. Thank you for hanging in. And then I'm going to open it up in the chat because I want to see where you're from. So to recap, writing can be a conversation or relationship, and can help you unlearn what you've learned so you can actually start writing, and try to think about it as an invitation instead of an expectation. Writing struggles suck, and I acknowledge that, and they're part of the process. So identifying who you are and the kind of writer you are helps clear that path. Struggles are what lead to procrastination. So identifying your struggles, and procrastination comes from 4 primary areas: the mental snares, the emotional snares, spiritual snares, and tactical snares. Invitations are super effective because they bypass the critical judgment and the mind, and they open up expression. And I have these beautiful cards, and each deck addresses a specific element of procrastination. And so with that, I want to bring on Andre from BookBaby, and he's got some things to share. Also, he was somebody who was a procrastinator, and he came to Santa Fe. And so if you could just take a few minutes and share with us what you have to share, and then we will wrap up in a few minutes.
Thank you. Hello. Thanks, Janna and Stephanie and Chad. Yeah, my name is Andre Kelly-Ohana. I am the blog manager and editor and curator of the BookBaby blog and the Discmakers blog. And I mean, I write every day and edit every day. So on one level, I feel like I can't procrastinate, but for sure with my own project, I've got a book that I'm writing. I have been procrastinating. And in fact, your presentation today has actually given me a little clarity as to how I'm going to get around it. So I can count myself as a happy customer. But so, yeah, I mean, I count myself kind of lucky. I mean, BookBaby and as an entity, I think as a production, book manufacturer and a self-publishing platform, we have a specific function within the industry. But I do think that part of what we really do is try to create community. I mean, obviously, writing is a very, very solitary endeavor in many ways, but there is a community of writers. And, Jan's retreats and webinars like this, I hope bring that to the fore. We have a number of great guides that you can get from BookBaby. And certainly I think the blog is the hub of where you can find that community, find a lot of information about how to get around procrastination, how to just, learn a lot about the writing process and the craft of writing. So I hope I invite you guys to come check that out if you haven't already. And one other thing from BookBaby, you will be getting in the next week or so, we'll be sending out a discount code for $100 off of a book cover design for printed books. So, and to try to get you off of your, procrastination, we're going to, it's good through the year. So you're basically between now and December 31st, you can get $100 off of a book cover design. So if you guys are on a book writing crusade, we'll do our little bit to try to spur you on and give you a little incentive to get that finished.
Thank you, Andre. I appreciate it. And so I'm going to leave you with a couple of parting words, and then I'm going to give you 3 resources that will, if you want to learn more and continue the conversation with yourself. The 3 primary ways: I have these cards and the amazing 5-video course that goes with it, and $97 for the next 24 hours. and it comes with a workbook so you can work your way through. And it's everything that we talked about, but more in depth. And I spend 20 to 30 minutes on each topic. And it has been super helpful for people who just want to like dive in and do a self-paced learning opportunity. If you're like me, I prefer the live in conversation class. I'm a learner that learns in real time. And so I'm going to have, starting August on Tuesday nights, a 4-week live interactive class that you can work with me. And we're going to use the cards, and we're going to talk about procrastination and writing struggles, but we're going to have a chance every Tuesday night in real time to spend time together, and I can learn about who you are. I can learn about your struggles. You can ask me questions. You'll get the coaching and the guidance and the conversation, the community, the camaraderie with everybody else in the class. And that will be 4 weeks. And that comes with the cards, with the video lesson, with the booklet, but you get those very intense, lovely, beautiful moments of exchange and coaching and expert advice from me. And that's every 4 weeks, and that's $297. And I'm going to give you links to all these things. I'm just telling you what's there. The last thing, some people want the class and some people want the workshop and some people want the cards, but they also want me to give them that insight, that psychic advice and insight about where they're stuck, why they're procrastinating, how can they move forward. And so that's the last thing I'm going to offer today. For $497, you get the classes, the workbooks, the cards, but you get 2 private one-on-one sessions with me. And the first session, I'm going to work with you and I'm going to help you untangle your specific procrastination knots. And the second session is I'm going to give you a blueprint on how to move forward in your writing life, whether you're working on a book. So you will have a plan in action in place that you actually have a chance to move forward with your writing dream and fulfill it and get that book done and stop procrastinating. So I'm going to send links to all these things. I hope you come work with me. I love doing what I do. I have huge success because I'm super passionate. I might not be for you, and that's totally okay. It's really fine. But for the people who are able, willing, capable, and who, whatever it is that I'm saying resonates, we will get creative and productive. I promise. I love what I do. So I hope you reach out. I hope you take me up on the cards, the class, or the one-on-one coaching. And I'm going to leave you with these words. You deserve your brightest expression. You deserve your brightest expression. Your words are waiting to find you. You will not let yourself down. I promise you, you will not let yourself down. Expression is where you and the conversation with yourself are alive. That's when they're alive. If writing has been a struggle in the past, it doesn't mean that it will be moving forward. It doesn't mean that it will be moving forward. Every time you unearth your stories, you give yourself back to yourself. It feels so good and it's so amazing. Be curious over envious. The possibility of possibility creates a real opening for you in your expression. I've seen it 100% of the time. The possibility of possibility is everything. And if not now, when? When are you going to do it if you're not doing it now? So I'm going to open up the chat, and what I want to do is I'm going to open it up to everybody. Is do me a favor, because the best part of this for me is I saw all your names. I read all your names. I want to know your name and where you're from, because there are people from all over the world. So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and put it in the chat so I can see where you're from. And if you have any questions, so let's see. maybe I need to everyone, and let's change the setting to everyone. And there we go. Let's see if it will work. I want to see if attendees can chat with everyone. Panelists can chat with everyone. There we are. Okay, Leslie from Portland, Maine. Alina from Utah. We got Calgary, Ohio, California, Connecticut. And also let me know if you enjoyed this today. If you have any feedback or comments, I want to thank BookBaby. My hope is that BookBaby continues to offer these, so let BookBaby know. And if anybody has any questions, I am going to stay on for a few minutes, so I'm here for you. And I know we're a few minutes over, but I'm very glad you're here. And you know what? I think I will, very inspiring and informative. New Zealand, woo woo, that's awesome. Hawaii, I love that. Mahalo. South Africa, Toronto. Oh, I love that. You guys are so great. Oh, and I have some friends here. Hi, Greg. Good to see you. I'm glad you're here. So put your questions in there, your comments, and I'm going to read each and every one. I'm going to make sure you all get the links to the cards. And I would love to have you in a class with me. We would have such a great time. Yes, I will connect you with a link to all the resources. Help me find my struggles. Good, Sharon. Thank you. I'm so glad for you. Let's see. We have a writing tutor. Spain. Woohoo. Awesome. Good. I'm glad you learned a lot. You learned a lot. Thank you, Jackie. I love that. I love that you're here. I have students who are here. I have friends who are here. Okay, so you have a question about not using one laptop. So yes, I do have strong feelings about not using the laptop because I feel like that's what we do every day for work. So pen and paper, and listen, there's no right or wrong. You can find your own way forward, but I do strongly invite you to check it out with a pen and a paper. Oh, good. Athena says, now I have new tools to overcome. Awesome. Thank you to BookBaby. Yes. Excellent. Thank you, BookBaby. So I'm going to read each and every one of these, but yes, the invitation cards look beautiful. They really are beautiful. These were all taken from Santa Fe, New Mexico, where I live, and photography is part of my storytelling. And so sometimes writing doesn't always look like writing for me. Sometimes I also take photos. Yes. Okay. So Linda says that you're going to use what we gave you and get productive. Good. I'm glad. Excellent. So yeah, if anybody else, I'm going to send you links. I hope you come to the class at very least 4 weeks. We will definitely have amazing conversation in real time, and I can see you as much as you can see me. So Jackie says using the cards has brought out the words in ways she didn't know she could express. Yeah, she has used the cards, and her invitations and her writing has been pure poetry. So I am trying to keep up with all your comments, and I promise you I'm going to read each and every one. And because I have your name on here, I will personally respond to you also by email. So let's see. Neil says, working on 2 novels at the same time be procrastination. My writing took a 2-year break after your partner's death. I'm sorry to hear that, Neil. I think I would address this, Neil. I don't know that working on 2 novels at the same time would be considered procrastination. What I would invite you to think about is, what is it you care about right now in this moment? What is it that you care about right now in this moment? Because when we are in a space of writing from what we care about and not what we think we have to care about, it creates a different opening. So does writing in two places at once actually help you, or does it confuse you? So I think it comes back to figuring out what kind of writer you are and what it is that you need and what's going to help you open up that conversation for yourself. So I hope that helps, Neil from South Africa. I hope that works. Let's see. So Carol says, working on your 5th novel, but getting started has been difficult because I'll know I'll have to be disciplined and the thought discourages me. Well, I can get to that. I do get to that. How do you feel, Carol, when I say, can you invite yourself in to the conversation as opposed to expecting? How does that feel? And which snare do you sit with? Which snare? Sometimes it's all snares. Listen, we are not any one snare at any one time. We are all snares at all points in time. And I think a couple of you have asked about the link for the cards. So I'm going to put it in here now. I just didn't want to put it in because there was so much space, but I'm going to put it in the chat. So you can go ahead and order right now if you want. And then I will send a link that has all of these. And I'm looking for the current link. While I look, okay. Winston, Oregon. Are there other writers in this area? Well, I lived in Oregon for a while. There are the Willamette Writers Group. You might want to check them out. They have local organizations and chapters that you can become part of. Let's see. I have ready MSS for notification fiction, but have trouble getting a publisher or literary agent interested. That is a whole conversation. That is a whole conversation. If you take the class with me, I might be able to address that. So I'm going to try to put this link to buy the cards right now into the chat. Let's see. Any other questions? I'm definitely going to take a look at all of these. Boy. All right. Landing page, where are you? It's too much. All right, so let's go to just, I'm going to try to set this in right now. And anyway, here it is. It is coming. You would like information about the writers' retreats? Perfect. My next writing retreat is in September. And it is, I have a few spaces left. I only take 10 people. Here is the link for the offer there in the chat. So I will give you information about the retreats and I will answer each and every question, I promise. You are welcome, Sean. I'm glad that it makes you feel positive about getting back to your book. I would absolutely encourage you, get back to your book. Your words are waiting for you. They want you and they need you. And figuring out what it is that inspires you will help you connect and invite yourself back to getting into the book, and don't be hard on yourself for not having finished, because we all have reasons why we procrastinate. So let's see, Mark asks nonfiction, and whenever you start writing, you feel the need to read another author in the field. How do I feel about that? Well, I think that we can spend so much time listening to other people and their expectations of what they believe is truth or their points of view about the topic. And in the end, sometimes that can be counter to what we believe. And so in terms of overcoming, It sounds like the idea of you trusting and listening and exploring and having the confidence that your perspective of what it is that you're writing about is unique, and your experience and your wisdom that goes with that knowledge is unique, and that you have a way of presenting and connecting and speaking that reaches people. I feel like intuitively, I'm reading that you're getting that you have a way that's able to connect. And that, I think, is the gift of what it is that you have to share. Anybody else? Wow, there's so many great ones on here. You are welcome, Mark. You are totally welcome. And I hope it helps. So tell me, since we have the chat open, I have a little bit about where you're all from. What's one thing that you got out of today? That would be super helpful for me. What's one idea or one thought or one word or one message that you will take away? One nugget. Richard says, hope. Oh, okay. Carol said hope. That's excellent. Richard said, I'm working my third novel and these tips are helpful. So Richard, thank you for letting us know. That's awesome. And I love that you have hope. I love that. The emotional cost of procrastination. Yeah, that is a big one. Wendy says invitation, not obligation. It makes a difference, Wendy. It's a game changer. It really is. An invitation without expectation. Writing for yourself, Larissa says, that will change your writing game too. It makes such a difference. Valuing my relationship with my writing and creativity. And I hope you guys are also reading what's coming through here, because this is you getting a chance to see each other. This is a chance for you to see each other. And I really hope, I'm going to post this again, this link, that you're going to sign up and take this 4-week class with me. It's on Tuesday nights, starting in August, and you will have a chance to interact. I can address your questions. I can coach you. We can work together. And if you do want the one-on-one, it's so hard for me to answer all these amazing questions, but I will help you identify your own struggles and give you a blueprint to go forward, and you will get a high level of coaching. So work with me one-on-one. I would love to be able to help you. Yes, Colleen, you are a writer. Isn't that great? I love hearing that you are a writer. That's so beautiful. You're welcome, Peter. Thank you for letting me know. Hello, everyone, a new writer here. Classes after August. Sylvia, I'll let you know. The classes will be recorded. So even if you can't be there live. Excellent. Writing and transformation go hand in hand. Yes, they do, Dave. They totally do. Inspiration to finish the book. Well, that's good. I love hearing that. So I will let you all, thank you. I have a lovely home. I do have a lovely home. I live in Santa Fe. I will stay on here. The panelists can go if they need to. Thank you for staying over. But I'm going to hang out still for a few more minutes because I want to make sure that everybody is heard and has the link to sign up for the classes or time with me or the cards. And listen, the video course for $97, it's pretty inspirational and you can do it in your own time, and it does have a booklet. So let's see. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but I'm going to try. Wadad? Wadad? It's a beautiful name. I'm sure I'm probably not saying it right, but it's a beautiful name. So your struggle is in the fear of doing something which is already done. Let's see. The fear of doing something which is already done. Okay, I got you. Listen, that is a very valid concern. That is a very valid concern. The truth is that there is nothing new. Everything is recycled and internalized. And the beautiful thing about writing on subjects that have already been written about is that your lifetime of experience, your lifetime of ideas, your lifetime of wisdom gets integrated into those topics in a way that is completely unique. And only you can express and create and alchemize and integrate the version of the world that you're experiencing only in the way that you can. And so there is nothing new, and just take it as inevitable that there's lots of topics out there and lots of ways to go about writing about those topics, but only you can internalize and integrate and express the way that you can. No one will do it the way like you do. All right, so David, I think you would love the cards. I think you would love the cards. And they're awesome for memoir because they evoke ideas and memories in a way that no other invitations can, and they're so effective. They're definitely so effective. So anyway, I think we're at 2:22. So what I'm going to do is save this chat, and I'm going to try to address everybody's questions by email. You will receive the link by email. I'll put it in here one last time to sign up. You get the cards and the course. Work with me, and I will share information about the retreats. But I love your contributions, Kevin. Yes, the universe has already had all the thoughts before us, just new filters with our own experience. Beautiful. I totally relate to that. Thank you, David, for the very kind words. I appreciate that. I really, really do appreciate that. I try very hard. Hi, Catherine. You are Christine's sister, I believe. Nice to meet you. All right. Chad, do you have anything you want to add before we go?
Is there anything that I want to add before I go? I just want to say that I'm super grateful for you. And, you know, I've done a lot of one-on-one sessions with Janna that just really opened me up, been to a couple of her retreats. But at the end of the day, when it comes to writing, you know, once I got out of like expectations and what I thought it was supposed to be, it just, what inspires me to write is life, the good, the bad, the ugly, the moments where I'm trying to figure out who I am again and where I'm going in life and my purpose. And, you know, when I have issues where I'm learning how to communicate with my partner, or when I've wanted to quit my jobs and just go to an island and write somewhere, or stressed about paying bills and losing family members and friends, like I use that and I use my life and I write about it. And it's been a beautiful healing experience for me. And, you know, I credit a lot to you to helping me open up and receive to get to that place. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
It was already in me, you know, but you really helped me fully receive that. So.
All right. Well, thank you for that. You all are amazing and inspiring and beautiful. And I believe in you. I believe in where you're headed. It's possible. And I will be so excited to work with you one-on-one, or to have you in a class, or to have you experience invitations for yourself so that you can get beyond procrastination and get back to writing, because that's what we need. And so this will be recorded, and you will get the links. And I'll be curious when I hang up here to see how many of you have gone on and signed up for something, because I want to meet you. I want to work with you so badly. Yeah, so, well, that's good, David. Good for you. I'm glad it's helpful. It does break your heart. It does break your heart. The period of blockage is extremely heartbreaking, and I believe you can get back to writing. And I think whether you use the cards or not, whether you come to a class or not, whatever it is that you need, I believe that you will find a way and get back to writing. And just remember, you can always invite yourself in. It's your conversation with yourself, and it's for you, your audience of one. And so start with one invitation at a time, one word at a time, one moment at a time, and figure out, I hope you took some notes, David, on some of what we talked about, and you can figure out where you might be snared and how to get beyond it. All right, I could sit here all day and talk with everybody, but I'm going to save this chat. I'll post the website one more time, and I sure hope that we have a chance to connect and work together. Definitely see we have a chance to work together. I'm anxious to help you be free forever and find your writing freedom forever. All right, kids, we're going to sign off. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, I will send the recording. You all will get the recording. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a beautiful day. And thanks for hanging out with me. Let me save this chat right now because I want to have this chat. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you. Bye, Chad. Thanks.